They don't want to face the issue of, I need to
man.
learn how to talk to my partner better. I don't want to have to fix my tone. Why do I have to watch what I say? Because that's what an adult does. We can't just think it's okay, especially with our partners, to speak however we want, because what people are not realizing is,
I think you gotta have a dream.
The School of Greatness.
Really?
Yeah.
Please welcome Lewis Howes.
Biggest question I think a lot of people have right now is why do people have such a hard time these days finding love during these times? Why is it so hard?
well, now when we say during these times, are we talking about pandemic times as well? Or
Talking
we
about
just
everything, everything. Social media, pandemic, millions of options out there. Hard to focus on all these different challenges.
Now, you know what? I want to start with the social media. I used to be someone that said, you know what? Social media is not the problem. It's people. Social media simply exposes the issue, which I still believe that. But I have come to a place of seeing how evil social media can be, how much damage it can cause in people's relationships, but not just simply the negativity it pours into people's relationships, but the expectations now that it sets in different ways for people. Like you have men who are forgetting what an average woman looks like because they're looking at IG models all day.
Wow.
All right. You have women forgetting that, you know, not every guy has $1 million and can shower you with a ridiculous amount of gifts. They're seeing this luxury life being lived. Now, of course, everyone doesn't fall for that,
Right.
but a lot of people are. And I do think it's impacting people's ability to appreciate relationships and different levels of how we engage with each other compared to what it used to be. It's so different now.
In a relationship between a man and a woman, what is the biggest problem that you see today that women face that are holding them back from staying in a healthy relationship? And what's the biggest problem that men are faced with and them being happy with their partner if they're in a relationship?
So I always talk about healing. And I do believe that healing is the number one biggest issue. But I want to take a different angle here. I think that another huge issue that both men and women are facing from women's standpoint is really understanding that men are different in how we think, how we behave, how we're overall wired. And the same thing goes for for men. So essentially, men lacking an understanding of the emotional state or the emotional side of women and not knowing how to tap into that or navigate through that. Whereas she also struggles with trying to navigate through his logical side and how he goes about things. And that disconnect, because both sides are expecting the other to understand them where they are, all right? And they're not trying to understand the other person. And so we get caught up in our own feelings, our own perceptions of things, and that creates this huge fight, this huge battle, rather than really learning how the other side operates.
This is going to be an oversimplified question, a response that you have, because each person is unique. But I want you to fill in the blank. If a woman understood X about a man, they would be happy in their relationship.
The simplicity of a man, they would be happy.
If a woman understood the simplicity of a man,
Yes.
they would be happy in their relationship.
Yes.
They would
They
have
would be
less
happier.
stress, they would have less arguments, they would
Yes.
have less pain, suffering.
Yes,
What does
because
it mean to be the simplicity of a man?
So there's a few things. One, a lot of women overthink and overanalyze in their relationships. And so a simple example I gave in one of my videos is like, let's say a guy ask the man, what do you want for your birthday? And he says, listen, let's just watch a movie together, have some pizza, drink some liquor, I'm good. Have some sex, that's all I need for the night. And the woman thinks, let me get him a wallet.
He's like, no, I didn't ask for that.
Exactly. Like, it's so simple. He's telling you exactly what he wants. The words coming out of his mouth it's what he means. The problem is so many women have been conditioned to dealing with liars and manipulators, dealing with men who are playing games, that when they are with a good man who's being forthcoming and honest, they don't know how to take that. And also because women are they're in the details, all right? So they are going to see what you need. They're going to analyze and say, okay, I can get this for him. They're more thoughtful in their approach. They go deeper, which is why they become so frustrated with us, because we don't. When we don't understand that when they said, I'm okay, that they really weren't okay, that bothers them. When they told us we don't want anything for Valentine's Day, but they really wanted something and we didn't get that, that bothers them, because it's like, why aren't we looking deeper? Why aren't we learning them and being more in tune with them? Because that's how they are with us. And so again, it's a disconnect of we operate very differently, but if they would just understand, we're very simple. And the man who wants to be with you, who wants to love you, is being very plain and clear. If you would just honor and accept that, it would make things so much easier.
And if a man knew X about a woman, they would have a happy life.
What's the right word? It really goes back to understand that her emotions, I'm trying to find the right way to phrase this, but it's really understanding the emotional side of the woman. And what I mean by that is, again, if you're with a woman, let's say you guys are walking down the street, and she says, I don't feel safe right now, all right? To a man, we may analyze the area and say, well, there's nothing of danger here. What's your problem? You're crazy. No, don't do that. If she says, I don't feel safe, you have to understand how she feels. That's her emotion right now. And her emotion is reality to her. She may not be able to explain it. It may be something within her spirit. But as men, we make a mistake of dismissing it because it doesn't line up with our logic. And now it's, you're crazy, you're this, you're that, rather than no. Try to understand she's feeling like this for a reason. And even if we can't always explain it, honor it. Now, the man's concern is, well, now she can manipulate you and play you, because even when it doesn't make any sense, she can say, I feel this way. But if you're with a good woman and she's been good to you in every other way, why question that she's playing games now? Give her the benefit of the doubt. So I think if we would just learn to embrace what her emotions are at the moment, we would be able to have more peace. Because again, a lot of fights come from you're trying to force your logic onto her. She's trying to tell you how she feels right now.
Right.
And it's like this. No, meet her where she's feeling right now. Acknowledge that. Say, okay, you know what? I understand it. Let's handle it from that perspective.
Why is it so hard for let's talk about men in this situation, to acknowledge someone's feelings when in the man's mind, you might be acting crazy. These feelings are irrational. Why would I acknowledge irrational feelings when there's nothing to be afraid of in this moment? If that's what a man is feeling, how do they get out of that space and say, okay, this is irrational. In my mind, maybe this does seem crazy because I don't feel this personally. How does a man learn to connect on that level so that they feel safe in that moment, even if it is irrational?
So 3 things. It's going to be awareness. Why did I just lose my train of thought for the second one?
Awareness, yep.
Awareness, I'm missing the second one. And then communication at times when things are not chaotic. All right. So the problem is you can't be trying to have this full deep discussion at this. If you feel like she's being irrational, if you feel like this is not making any sense, now you're trying to have this deeper discussion that maybe she's not ready to have at the moment. All right. She's feeling all over the place. Who knows what's triggering her right now? Wait till things are calm. And now let's revisit what happened the other day.
Don't fix it when it's chaotic.
Exactly. It's almost like, sometimes a woman doesn't want you to fix it. She wants you to listen and acknowledge how she feels. And so we can revisit it at a different time, but in that time, she needs you to embrace where she's at emotionally.
What if the man's just like, it doesn't make sense? You're making no sense right now. What you're saying is irrational. Maybe it's illogical. It's crazy. None of it makes sense. How do they wrap their heads around the madness of the emotion that is not real to them?
It really is. It's about practice. So that was the second
Awareness,
thing. Awareness, practice, communication. So the practicing of it is just simply understanding, listen, it doesn't always have to make sense. All right? What does it hurt you in that moment to just be more compassionate and considerate of how she's feeling, even if it doesn't line up with your logic right then? You know what I'm saying? And again, we can revisit this and use it as a moment to now learn more about each other. But right now is not the time.
So tomorrow, 3 days later, we can say, hey, listen, you know that time when we were walking down the street and you were afraid, nothing was around? Can we talk about that?
Exactly. And now we can gain better understanding, because at that moment, it may be easier for her to articulate it. But in the moment of her emotions running all over the place, it's going to be hard for her to get it out clearly. Not because she's trying to be difficult. It's just she's feeling all over the place. It's just hard. It's like, think about a child, and I'm not trying to reduce women to children, but think about a child being in their frantic moment, something happening to them, and you're saying, tell me what's wrong. They can't tell you. It's hard for them to say it. But once they're calmed down and at a better place, they can.
Absolutely.
So we got to be patient as well. We got to be patient with each other and give grace. We're going to have moments where, it may not make sense. But again, overall, if you're with a good woman, why act like she's being difficult or evil right now?
Absolutely.
You know?
There's a lot of good women. Speaking of good women, there's a lot of good women out there that are friends of mine who are single. And they've been single for years. Okay. I'm thinking of a few of them specifically in my mind. So I'm going to speak to these women's archetype, because I think there's a lot of women like this out there. They've been single they've been dating, but they haven't been in a committed long-term relationship for a while. Good women. They make their own money, they're independent, they're kind, they're compassionate, they're loving, they've got their own vision, but they're struggling in finding the right guy who will commit. What do you think is missing from those women? Or is this a timing thing? Maybe it's like, hey, you've been trying this for 8-10 years and you haven't found someone. Maybe it's still timing. Maybe they haven't showed up in your life yet. But if they're going on dates, they're doing these things and they still haven't been able to find a partner that feels like a good match, the right match. What's missing from them? Or is nothing missing?
It's hard to say because, without knowing them individually, the issues can vary. I'll tell you what I've seen as common barriers for women. One of the most common, and they may not like hearing this, but one of the most common is a lacking of being in touch with their feminine side. And that only really plays a huge role dependent on the type of man they desire. If they desire a very masculine man who has his stuff together, a guy who can be a leader, at least has those qualities, then not being in your feminine is going to work against you. You're going to come across more difficult. You're not going to come across as someone that's peaceful. And again, I think every man who has stuff going on for himself can say what he needs almost most importantly, or at least near the top, is peace. Every man needs peace.
Oh man, I've been saying that my whole life. Peace.
And so if he does not view you in that way, because again, you project more masculine energy, you project more resistance, more of a difficult nature, he's not gonna, you could be the most beautiful, amazing woman. It's like, and he may want to sleep with you, but he's not gonna want to take you serious or marry you. So that can be one problem. Another thing can be timing. It's a lot of times is, we have to understand everything doesn't happen tomorrow. There is a process to this. But in that timing, what's important is that you don't drag on with the wrong men.
Yes.
A lot of women reduce their time or reduce their window of opportunity staying with the wrong guys, dating even the wrong guys. So it doesn't have to be a committed relationship. It could just be you're dating and getting to know each other, but you knew after a couple days that he wasn't it. And yet you're still letting it continue. And even though you're not fully committed in this relationship as an official boyfriend, girlfriend, you're emotionally invested. And your ability to now be available to someone else is severely hindered. So you're not going to be able to meet that great guy, or that great guy may come across you, hear that you're dating this guy and say, I'm not even going to bother with that.
Yeah.
And so that hurts you. So timing is it, but you have to make sure you're leaving yourself available.
Here's a question. Do we stay in relationships longer when we haven't fully healed the past?
Hell yes. Absolutely.
I'll probably raise my hand here for pretty much every past relationship where I have known at different levels, like something's not right, something's off. Okay, let's work on it. Let's try to make it work. Still things are off. It's like you have a knowing inside, and sometimes you try to force it to make it work. And I'm as one to blame as anyone here. And what I realized is like, I haven't fully healed certain things. And it's why I've stayed in the past in relationships much longer than I probably should have. Mm-hmm. But I was afraid. I was afraid of hurting someone. I was afraid of hurting myself. I was afraid of whatever.
Yeah.
And when I started to learn that, like, this is something you talked about over and over, that the healing process is the key process to build a foundation for the potential for a great relationship, for something to flourish.
Yes.
You want to have, the dream is to have a rainforest of an environment in your relationship where things can grow, things can flourish. There's green trees around you, there's waterfalls, not an environment of a desert where things go to die in the relationship.
Yes.
And I don't think we can truly allow things to grow if we don't learn to heal. And that's something that you taught me years ago, and you teach so many people around the world this. But if people don't even think they need to heal something, how do they do it?
They can't. There's no way. You can't overcome an obstacle you don't believe exists.
Right.
Like,
I'm fine, I got this. Nah, I've dealt with this stuff in the past. Like, that was me.
Exactly. And so the problem is most people don't heal until they hit a wall, until something, knocks them on their behind, and now they have to see things differently and accept the issues that they've been holding on to. But also, I think the problem for a lot of individuals is they're not healed and they're in environments with people who haven't healed either. And now those unhealed people are going to validate your issues. They're going to validate your unwillingness to face those things.
This is so hard because, whatever, guy friends, girlfriends, whoever you are, and you lean on people and say, this person did this, and they validate you and say, leave them. They're no good for you. You deserve better. You don't deserve that. They shouldn't be doing this, right? They start to validate to be on your side, but they're not healed either if they're coming from that place. Maybe they're correct on certain things, but it's learning how to communicate to your friends in a healthier way probably also.
Well, but I think, yes, because a lot of people, they tell their friends the bad and they don't always tell them the good.
Yeah.
So the friends have a very skewed perception of the relationship or whatever situation that you're facing. But we also have to be aware enough to understand who we're seeking guidance from. Like, I may speak to my friends because I need to vent at the moment or I want some feedback, but I'm fully aware that they are not the end-all be-all to this, that they may be speaking from their own hurt place. I still can filter their perspective through the understanding of they're not healed enough to give me full, proper, great guidance, all right? But they might give a perspective that I needed to look at. And that's why I will still talk to them, because I want to hear different perspectives. I want to make sure I'm not missing any blind spots here, all right? So it's good to talk to different people, but only if you understand how to not just take them as, oh, well, my friend said this, so this is it. No, your friend may be broken too, and they're going to lead you down an even more broken path.
Exactly. So the conversations you have with some people, they're not healed and they're not helping you fully because they're validating something that you don't need to hear necessarily.
Absolutely.
Maybe some of it is right, but not all of it.
And not to mention, it can happen in other ways as far as, like, I've seen people where the friend was in a toxic relationship that they were unwilling to leave. So now when their other friend came to them about their toxic relationship, give them a chance. Cheating happens in every relationship. They'll come up with all these validations to stay because they can't look themselves in the mirror and tell themselves to walk away. So how are they going to tell you to do it?
So
all right?
hard.
Now, some people can do that. Some people can still tell you opposite of what they're going to actually are willing to do. But a lot of people, unconsciously or subconsciously, are trying to validate how they would handle things or how they have handled things, all right? So if it's I would leave because someone called me out my name one time, then I have to tell you that you got to leave for that reason.
Right.
I can't tell you to be considerate of, well, maybe it was a mistake, maybe this can be fixed. Oh, no, because I drew that line, you need to draw that line. A lot of people don't understand how to give that unbiased advice. So that's why you have to be very careful going to friends and family.
Healing is, again, a lot of clarity comes through healing. You'll be able to see things differently in a relationship if you are from a healed place. I think a lot of us, myself included, have stayed in relationships longer than necessary because we haven't healed something yet, and that's why we stayed in them. So would you say that people who have healed and addressed the past, the traumas of the past, the pains of the past, are much quicker to get out of a dating situation when they realize, oh, this isn't for me. Like, I thought it was going to work out, but I don't need to keep trying for months and years to try to make it work. It's not working. I'm willing to walk away. Would you say people healed are able to do that better?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Basically, the more healed you become, or when you have become healed, your willingness or ability to tolerate toxic energy is diminished. You don't know how to operate or how to stay in those environments any longer because now you see things so much clearer. It's almost like if you were to detox your body and start to eat healthy. Now you go back to eating some fast food and it will destroy your stomach.
Yeah.
So your willingness to eat that bad food is no longer there, or at least it's diminished because now your body knows what healthy feels like.
Ooh.
All right. So emotionally, once you get to a healthy place and you know what healthy is, you can't tolerate dysfunction as much anymore. You can't tolerate someone who does not want to face their issues. You know, it reminds me right now, real quick, of even when it comes to business. Or you know what, even when it comes to fitness, a lot of people, once they've achieved great success or once they've achieved getting that body they always wanted, they look at those who do not have differently. Before, they may have been in that pool of people that said, my circumstances, there's nothing I can do, it's too hard. But once you've achieved it and you knew what work it took to get there, now it's like, no, you're just unwilling. You don't have enough desire to push past the obstacles to get the results you're looking for. And so again, when you become healthy, your willingness to tolerate this person just can't get past their issues. It's like, no, because I got past mine.
Right.
I know
Right,
what it
right.
takes. I know you can get there if you're willing. But so many are not willing.
Let's say you got in a relationship, you got married, you've been committed for a while, and neither of you have healed. But then one of you decides, you know what, this isn't working. I gotta heal the pain from the past. They go on that journey, they get relief, they find peace in their heart, they're not triggered, whatever it is. They've started and have continually been on the healing process. But the other person continues to be in their own traumatic past experiences. What if they're not willing to heal? Would you recommend, is that relationship able to work still? Are you able to find ways to say, well, we still love each other and we have a lot of chemistry and connection most of the time? What would you say about that? If the other person's unwilling to heal?
I hate to say this, but I have to be honest.
Yeah.
All right. I can never encourage someone to remain in a toxic situation. All right. I do think that we can take an approach that says, let's see if we can work this out. Let's give them a little bit of grace here. And the main thing is, can we achieve progress? All right. Rome isn't built in a day. And if we've been behaving or we've been tolerating this dysfunction for so many years, we can't expect it to be perfect tomorrow. But are you willing to at least start to walk on that path and make progress? Though I don't want to encourage divorce, I cannot feel comfortable telling people to stay trapped in a marriage with someone who doesn't want to face their issues.
Right.
If you have freed yourself from that, you have healed, they've got to be willing to make a move. And here's the problem. People are afraid to heal, or people are afraid to face the issues that requires them to heal, all right? Because you have to, it's like, I remember a quote, and I'm probably saying it wrong. To heal, you have to face the pain, or you have to dive into the pain, something like that, all right? So people understand it's painful to go and revisit your past. It's painful to let those emotions you've suppressed all these years come back out. And so now your fear of healing or facing the process of healing is greater than your fear of losing this person, all right? And they think because you're married to them, you're not going anywhere.
You're stuck for life.
Exactly. So for that reason, that's not enough incentive to face their fear of facing their issues. Wow. The only thing that may get them to do it is the threat of divorce.
Wow.
Or is the actual divorce happening? Again, it's not that I want it to get to that point. I hope and pray everyone can avoid that. But the reality is some people won't get it together until there's a real consequence on the table. And that will be divorce in that situation.
So, okay, let's say someone's like, you know what? I feel like I'm good. It's never been about me. It's been about everyone else. It's their problems that why the relationship doesn't work out.
Hold on, I gotta stop you real quick.
Yes.
Because this is like hitting my spirit. I gotta say
Give it to me.
The other thing to consider is that some people will never change. They will never heal. And the reality is that the person you're with is the wrong person. And the only reason you got with them is because you were broken. Had you not been damaged in the first place,
Zing.
you may not be with this individual.
Because you wouldn't have chose someone like this if you were coming from a healed place.
Exactly. And if you were healed, you would have been your true self. Your true self may not have aligned with this individual. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't circumstances where people still end up with the right person when they were both not healed. I do think that's possible to happen. But a lot of people, I would argue the majority, because I always say if you're not healed, you are 99% likely to choose the wrong person. So I do still strongly believe that the majority of people are with the wrong individual. And that's marriage, relationship, whatever. Because that brokenness, that damage
attracted something else that was broken.
and allowed you to tolerate it. Or it allowed you to feel safer in that environment. Wow. Here's the thing that people don't realize. When you have not healed, if you were to get with a healthy person, it would essentially demand of you from the jump to basically heal or step your game up. And again, people are afraid to face their issues. So to get with another broken person, subconsciously, it validates me staying broken. It validates me not having to face my issues because now we all have issues. You see, as long as we all have issues, I don't have to face mine. But if you have corrected yours, how can I validate my own?
Wow. What's your issues?
My issues?
The coach always has an issue somewhere. What's your biggest fear or insecurities around being in a relationship or finding the right person or dating or?
So, okay, I'll say fear. And I'm being very transparent. I've never said this
I know you
anywhere
haven't.
else. All right?
I know you haven't. Your biggest fear?
My biggest fear has been, can I remain focused and fulfilled in the relationship long-term past a certain time? Meaning, okay, I have no doubts 5 years in, 10 years in, I'm still good. But when it hits year 15, this is different. And again, it's because of, one, I think a lot of people, the issue that we have, is specifically even with monogamy. Not saying that I'm going to be going out there cheating, but I always say the issue with monogamy is that people struggle to maintain monogamy. Mm-hmm. And we struggle to maintain monogamy because we don't maintain who we fell in love with. All right?
What do you mean by that?
Meaning that person that I brought you and you brought to me that made us feel like this is it.
It's different.
It's different now. The thing is, though, it can be maintained if it's the true you. Problem is a lot of people aren't being their true self from the jump. Right. So that creates a difference right there. Also, is there a willingness to grow together? Mm-hmm. And that needs communication. That means connection has to be there. A lot of people have not gotten with that person they have a connection with. So this is where, for me, there's fear, but there's peace in knowing that I do believe if I'm willing to do my part to maintain who she falls in love with, all right? Whoever that woman is, when that day happens, I'm willing to do that. And that goes spiritually, mentally, physically. I have no problem sticking to the recipe that worked. And I'm confident in one end because I say, you know what? I believe in connection. And I believe that that's the missing ingredient. When I look at these relationships that have failed and haven't made it past that 10-year, 15-year mark, I do think that the reason is connection was not there in most cases.
So chemistry was there.
Chemistry may have been there at one point.
First, compatibility?
Yes. Compatibility based on what they were presenting at one point may have been there. But again, was it true compatibility if they weren't being their true self? And if they had not found their true self yet? But connection was not there. And I think a lot of people get with each other based off the hype. And that's the reason why I'm such a stickler on, okay, I have to make sure I wait for connection because I want to make it past those 15 years. I want to make it for the long haul. I want to be a representation of what I speak about. I want people to look at my relationship and say, I don't want it to be that fake relationship that people think is good, but it's actually horrible behind closed doors. No, I want us to be amazing to everyone and inspire them. So I have to wait for connection, and me being a man of God, I have to wait for that spiritual guidance that says this is the one, that I can pray about this and God tells me she's it. Because, you know, there's a lot of beautiful, amazing women out there, but everyone's not for us.
Right.
And so I think it's important to understand who aligns with you, especially as a man when you're walking in your purpose. And that's why it's so important for men to find their purpose, because if you don't know where you're headed in life, you don't know who belongs on that path with you. So you've got to make sure that you know yourself, you know the direction you're walking in, and now you can see what woman can align with you, and you guys can walk together as a unit and make it something amazing.
What's your definition of chemistry, connection, and compatibility?
All right, so chemistry to me is the art of getting along, flowing with each other. All right, chemistry can be created, it can be destroyed. Think about it from a team sports perspective. You can put players together and they have to build team chemistry. So through repetition, through practice, they can get to a point of having chemistry. Yes, some people have instant chemistry, all right? But just as it was instant, it can also be broken.
Instantly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, we can start to not get along and not flow with each other very easily. Things can get in the way. And again, this happens even in team sports or even in the corporate arena where you have team building exercises, but then things happen that destroy the structure of the business.
Absolutely. So that's chemistry.
That's chemistry.
How important is chemistry?
It is still very important. It is not the most important. And I say that to mean chemistry has to be in every relationship for it to work and flourish. But it does not set the stage for everything else. All right? Connection sets the stage for everything else. So basically, if you have connection, you will be able to have chemistry and compatibility. But now let's talk about compatibility. I believe compatibility is a very logic-based structure of putting two people together. It's also about we're compatible in the sense that we share values. All right? So again, you can meet someone that you are quote unquote compatible with. You guys share similar values. You guys come from even maybe the same kind of cultures. There could be a lot of things that make you guys compatible on paper.
But what is real compatibility?
Well, to me, that is real compatibility,
Okay.
so to speak, is that yes, you guys on paper are a good fit, all right? And you guys should work. But again, without connection, it won't matter. So I would argue that a lot of marriages, let's even talk about arranged marriages, some of them were built on compatibility. Well, this person came from the right family, so we like this. They have a good job, they have a good education, they would be a good fit here. They share the same values. But when those two people are really alone with each other, it doesn't always hit, which is why if you go on an online dating site, it can match two people together that are compatible on paper.
Interesting.
But in person, it doesn't always play out the same.
Because what is missing?
The chemistry, or more importantly, the connection.
And sometimes we might be tricked. Oh, we feel this spark of chemistry, but you may not have connection. Is that true?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you might say, oh, we're compatible on paper, everything. We have the same values. We want the same things for our life and marriage and kids and where our family's going to be. We have compatibility. We have chemistry. There's some type of spark here. I feel like, ooh, there's a little something down here that makes me feel
and
like
we get
special.
along and we know how to flow with each
Wow,
other.
It's amazing. But you're saying if we can't find true connection, or if there isn't connection, can connection be created?
No, and so that's the huge distinction to me with connection. Connection cannot be created, nor can it be destroyed. It's either there or it's not.
Wow.
There's nothing you can do to build connection. You can build a stronger bond. You can create a stronger attachment to each other, but that still doesn't mean connection is there. And you see this play out in situations where you have people who could meet each other right now, have this amazing connection. Something happens where they fall apart. They come back together years later, 10, 20 years later, and it's like they never stop talking. It just falls right back into place. It's connection. It's a deeper thing that's occurring there. To me, connection is your spirit recognizing its match. It is something that is happening beneath the surface, all right? Which is why many people who have felt connection, you can't always explain it. Connection does not always line up with the logic of compatibility. It's not always, oh, well, it makes sense because of this. No. It's just there. You just feel something with this person. You feel drawn to them. It's so much deeper than anything you've ever felt. And consider this. You can be compatible with tons of people. You can have chemistry with tons of people. You do not feel connection with a bunch of people. Period. If we were to survey people who have felt a connection in their life, you'd be lucky to find many who can say 2 times.
Wow.
The majority will say it's a one-time occurrence that has happened to them. All right? And being able to have that again, it's very difficult. Now, I don't want anyone listening to be discouraged if they did not end up with the person they had a connection with. I'm not saying it's impossible for it to happen a second time, but I will say that if you surveyed people, you would have a hard time finding that many people that said it happened twice.
When does someone know it's connection and not chemistry? Because I feel like you might be tricked. We have this incredible connection. We understand each other. We get each other. I can't explain it, but I feel something. That feeling might be also chemistry at the same time, right?
Yes.
It might be masking
Yes.
if it's really connection or chemistry. So how do you know if it's true connection over, man, there's this desire, connection, attraction, all these things happening at once?
One, can you truly be yourself with this person?
That's big.
All right? Because again, a lot of people, they go on these dates, they're bringing their representative, and the chemistry happens on a surface level with the representatives that both sides are bringing. But when you actually show your true self, now what happens? And a lot of people have not done that with their partner or the person that they're getting to know. So again, you're falling into the hype of the chemistry or the compatibility, but you're not discovering true connection being there. So you got to be able to be yourself, because real connection loves you at the core. All right? You can show me all the parts of you. I still want you. All right? Number two is, can we enjoy each other with no distractions? All right? Again, what people fail to understand, and this can happen with chemistry, is that we're bonding based off of the activity or the things in our environment. Meaning, all right, we love going out together and we do all these fun stuff and we're doing all these things. And that's great, all right? We know how to have fun together. But can we be alone in a room, no TV, no distraction, no phone, just us, and still love being with each other? A lot of people can't say that. A lot of people are only able to be in their relationship and tolerate their partner, and I use that word strongly, tolerate their partner, because they have enough distractions in their life. They have kids, they have work, they have all these other things going on.
TV, video games, man caves, whatever.
Exactly. All these things that pull them away from their partner, that doesn't allow them to face the fact that, no, you really don't like each other at their core.
Man.
And so that is a huge sign of connection. That's why, like, one thing I suggested in one of my books was go on a road trip. And it's just a random suggestion, but go on a road trip for at least 6 hours, no phone, no distraction, just you and them talking. Will you still be happy after those 6 hours? A lot of people can't make it that far in a car ride with their partner. All right? A lot of people cannot be in a room alone with their partner and nothing else to take their attention. So you gotta really push those boundaries to see, what do we really have here, if this is really gonna be called a connection.
Right. And your fear is, are you able to grow together after 10, 15 years? Is that one of the main things?
It's it's hard to, you never can look that far ahead, and we don't know what's in store.
May not be here tomorrow.
Exactly. It's a concern of, can we still give that same energy? And it's both sides, because again, I'm not saying I'm not perfect. So even though I'm confident that I could do it, what if there's something that throws me off? It's just that, yes, as time goes on, there's that test of really putting your best foot and bringing that same energy that you brought in the beginning. Now, again, I think I'm holding myself to a higher standard than I think most people do, because I think that a lot of people's mentality is, well, things change. Things are gonna be different. It's okay. So what? You don't go out as much anymore. People think like this, but they don't realize that's why your relationship is deteriorating.
Right.
I don't want a deteriorated relationship. So when I think about, yes, can I be with someone past 10, 15 years if I accept a level of mediocrity? Of course. But
You don't want that.
Exactly. I'm saying, can we maintain excellence after these 10, 15 years?
Fulfillment.
Exactly.
Fun, play.
Peace, happiness, joy, all these things. Because to me, what is the point of being here if we don't have it, if we're not operating at our highest level?
What about the saying that I hear, whether this is a meme or this is women saying this online, maybe you know the line better than me. If he can't accept me at my worst, he doesn't deserve me at my best.
I hate that line. I absolutely hate it. And I hate it because it has turned into validation for not addressing your flaws and issues. All right? I agree with it from the standpoint of, You've got to be able to handle your partner's worst moments, all right? Because we're gonna all have moments. We're gonna all fall. We're all gonna make a mistake. It's gonna happen. Over time, that's just the way it is. But when you are essentially trying to say, I have a horrible flaw and you should accept it, even when I want to consistently make you deal with it, no, that's not gonna work for me. I can't accept that. That's not okay. And so a lot of people, that's what they're turning it into.
That's you not taking accountability and responsibility for growth.
Exactly.
It's going back to, okay, this is where I'm at. I don't want to address it. You just have to accept it or don't be with me.
Exactly. You know, it reminds me of like, I don't know if they still say it, but I know at one time people would say arguing is healthy for a relationship. All right? I despise that.
I don't know if I agree. I understand that. Yeah, I just don't like that.
No, at all.
Can you communicate with we don't agree on this, but do you have to argue?
Exactly. That's my thing. Disagreement is acceptable. Disrespect is not.
Ooh.
All right? So
Say it one more time.
disagreement is acceptable. Disrespect is not.
That's good.
All right? So my thing is, yes, it's okay and even healthy to have disagreements because we have different perspectives. We can bounce ideas off each other. We simply have to know how to navigate that and come to an official decision on things when we have those moments. But arguing says we are being disrespectful, whether our tone is negative, the words that we're using, you know, we're getting loud, we're getting angry, we're basically throwing negative energy at our partner. That's not healthy. There's nothing healthy about that. But a lot of people will say that because they want to validate the unhealthiness in their relationship. They don't want to face the issue of, I need to learn how to talk to my partner better. I don't want to have to fix my tone. Why do I have to watch what I say? Because that's what an adult does.
Wow.
All right, grow up. Like, I'm sorry to anyone listening to this, but that's just real. We can't just think it's okay, especially with our partners, to speak however we want, to throw all kinds of insults, to be disrespectful and think this is okay. Because what people are not realizing is all it takes is that one really bad argument to plant a seed of negativity that now grows into something worse in the relationship. A lot of people's issues are not the issue that they're facing in that current moment. It's the culmination of all kinds of things before then. It's the buildup from that last time you disrespected me or made me feel some kind of way. And ever since then, I've resented you. And now in this resentment, I've given you an attitude. You didn't know what the attitude was about because I didn't communicate clearly. Now you're giving me attitude. And now you see how it turns into other things. Now that attitude turns into not having sex with each other. That attitude turns into, the way that we talk to each other in general. Maybe becoming secretive because now we don't feel like dealing with each other anymore. And what you don't realize is it started from disrespectful arguing.
Wow.
All right? It can also start from some other stuff. All right? But arguing is a huge problem for a lot of people, and we can't just keep sweeping under the rug. So going back to your point about the whole take me at my worst, yes, worst moment. You can have a moment.
Always like this.
Yeah,
and once in a while, a good attitude.
Exactly. Consistent negative behavior has to be addressed and corrected.
So arguments are disrespect, but disagreements is okay. Is that what you said?
Yeah, disagreement is acceptable. Disrespect is not.
Yes. So you can always disagree, and you can agree to not agree.
Yeah.
Or you can, is that right? Agree to disagree.
Yeah, agree to disagree.
But what I'm hearing you say is that arguing, saying what's on your mind in an angry, aggressive way, tearing down a partner is never going to do anything good for someone.
Exactly. People have to understand, whenever someone feels attacked, they will defend themselves. Even if they know they're wrong, even if the point you're making is actually solid, the way you're coming at them negates their ability to receive it. That's why even me as a speaker, my focus has been, do I want to be heard or do I want people to receive my message? All right? If I want to be heard, I can speak however I want. I can be blatant with the insults. I can cut people down. I can just make jokes of everybody's situation because it's just entertainment. I just want to be heard. But no, I want people to receive it. And if I want people to receive it, I have to be more considerate, more compassionate. I have to check my tone. I have to be careful with my words. And that's why if people watch my videos, they'll see I try to be very careful with my words because I want you to receive what I'm saying. So if we're in a relationship, we have to take that approach. If you want them to hear you, be mindful of how you're talking to them.
Why is this so hard for people?
Because again, they don't want to face or they don't want to do the work of correction. All right. And the work of correction can entail the healing and again, facing those issues. It's also conditioning. If people have been brought up in households and environments where this is how they talk to each other, it's very
hard to change that,
it's foreign to now speak in a more loving and positive way. It's foreign to sit and be quiet and listen. All right. So now they have to reprogram themselves, and that's a lot of work. And I think also the acceptance of the way you're communicating is wrong. People don't like to face that they were wrong. They don't want to have to accept that. So it's no, I have to dig an even deeper hole and stick with this whole negative approach of how I do things because no, there's nothing wrong with this. Or I see other people do it, but they're fine. No, they're not fine. They're not okay. So I think those reasons, and just overall, they don't want to have to do the work. And so they rather make excuses for it.
So it sounds like, again, we go back to step one, healing.
Always.
If you can learn to heal, you can start to improve the quality of your choices, dating someone in a relationship or getting out quicker. You can be a more effective communicator in relationships, whether you're dating or in a long-term committed relationship. You can have a better relationship overall with yourself when you heal and with someone else. So can you give me a breakdown, a boot camp 101 on how to recognize what you need to heal and then how to start healing that? Okay. What does that look like for someone? Okay, I need to heal, Stephan. What do you mean by that? How do I do it? How do I get started? How long does it take to get healed?
Okay.
Is this a lifelong journey? Is this overnight? What does it look like?
All right, so first thing, how long does it take to heal? It's going to take as long as you're willing to put in the work. Oh. Healing is not a time thing. It's a work thing. Mm-hmm. So when you hear people say time heals all wounds, no, it doesn't. Time alone doesn't heal a damn thing, all right? It can help. It does aid in the process. But by itself, it is no good. You have to take certain steps. So when people think, well, I'm going to take a year off from relationships to heal, why a year? And if you're not doing the work in that year means nothing. And that's what happens to a lot of people. They took a year off, but what they did was they hid from the world. They hid from relationships. They went in their corner, all right, and distracted themselves, but they never healed. Now they come back out of that year and they're still the same person.
Or maybe they're not the same. Maybe the first few months of dating, they're a little different, but then they fall back into
Exactly, because they never resolved things at its core. Now, in terms of recognizing what to heal, my first step is called the Who Hurt Me list, all right? So you get a piece of paper, you write down on a piece of paper, who hurt me? And now every person who comes to mind, you write them down on the piece of paper. It doesn't matter how long ago it happened, doesn't matter if you think you moved past it, if you think it's not relevant. If they come to mind, then there's some level of relevance there. Put them on the paper in about a sentence or two of what they did to hurt you, all right? This is how we're going to start to locate what you've been holding on to. But you really got to go into this exercise very genuine. You can't be trying to control the narrative. You just got to let yourself feel. Just ask yourself the question, close your eyes, let it come out.
What's the question they should ask? Who hurt me?
Who hurt me? That's it. Who hurt me? That's it.
And what if they're like, I can only think of like 3 people that really hurt me. Should they be thinking of like every instant they can think of from childhood of that one comment, or should this be this person punched me in the face?
Anybody who comes to mind. So I don't want them to force it, but I don't want them to undermine it in any kind of way either. Just whoever comes to mind, put them on the paper. Because even if there's a situation where you forgot somebody, if we tackle the big one, you're not going to be able to escape the big ones. The big ones are going to come out. They're going to come to mind. Right. If we can tackle those, then that might set the stage where everything else gets taken care of naturally.
Sure.
All right? Because now your awareness is going to be there and your level of healing will allow you to see things differently.
Because really the big ones might be the ones that cause the most pain. And if you heal that, the other ones are just a pattern of the pain.
Exactly. Yeah. And you will also start to perceive those situations differently once you've healed from the bigger ones.
Okay, so that's step one. Take a piece of paper, write it out. How long should this take? A few minutes, a few hours, depending?
Depending on the person, because, for some people it's going to get heavy. It's going to get heavy, and that might cause them to want to pause and take a step back. But I would encourage them, do not like walk away from it completely. Stick to it. But it can be as quick as a few minutes. Maybe it takes an hour because they may get emotional in the process. But just don't run from it. But just do it. Don't even worry about the time. Just do it.
Okay. Step 1. Step 2.
Step 2. So step 2, I'm gonna lay this out. I usually don't lay it out, but you know what? I feel like I gotta do it today.
Bring it.
I gotta do it today. So step 2 is we gotta get things off our chest. All right.
Okay.
And this is where we do the letter writing process. So there's 2 parts to the letter, or 2 drafts. The first draft is the most important. This is where we're gonna have essentially an emotional detox. We gotta get everything out. So let's say on the list is your mother. I always bring up mothers because so many people have mommy issues, but the world only wants to talk about daddy issues.
Ooh.
All right. And the society has made it to where it's almost wrong for you to tell a woman she was a bad mother or to criticize your mother. So we suppress that a lot more than we do our fathers.
That's interesting.
You know? So let's say it's your mother, and you're gonna do the first draft. And in that first draft, you're just gonna let all your raw emotion out. I don't care if you curse her out. I don't care if you wish death on her. I don't care what nasty, evil thing you say. However you feel, let it come out. You've got to let the anger, the hurt, all pour out of you into this letter. If you don't know how to start the letter, start it with the most damning thing you could say. All right? I hate you because, boom, and then just go from there. It's going to start coming out. Once you uncork that screw, that's it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this is where it gets heavier. A lot of people may take a lot more pauses in this process, all right? Because again, so many people have been suppressing this for so long. And again, it's like any other detox. When you start to detox, the bad stuff has to come out first,
Yeah.
all right? And you can't get to a healed place unless you flush out all the negative energy. So this is why it's important. This is not the draft to be politically correct, to try to frame things in the right way. I don't want you to be considerate. I don't want you to think about, well, I did some wrong things too. Forget all that. This first draft is let it rip. Let it rip, let it out. And I guarantee you, by just doing that first draft, you're gonna feel better. You're gonna feel a weight come off your shoulders. You're gonna feel more peace to you.
Great. That's the draft 1. Draft
That's
2.
Draft 2. So draft 2 is essentially now, I always tell people, all right, you finish draft 1, pray, meditate, whatever you gotta do, just get to a kind of level place mentally.
Calm,
all right?
yeah.
Calm. And now read the letter to yourself as if you were them.
Oh.
Okay? And now, so put yourself in their shoes, and anything that now comes off as attacking, condescending, blatantly insulting, you're going to change it. You're not changing the message. You're just changing your delivery of the message, all right? And the importance behind this is twofold. One, we talked about it earlier. People don't know how to communicate without being negative. Their tone, their delivery is horrible. So this letter is going to help you learn how to take your negative emotions and thoughts and now turn it and reword it into a much more loving, positive message. Now, loving positive does not mean you won't say some things that aren't hurtful to them or a hard pill for them to swallow. There's just a difference between lashing out and expressing how you feel. Saying, this is how you impacted my life. This is how I perceive things, rather than you're this, you're that, you're this. That's the first draft. But the second draft is just, you're just changing your delivery of the message. So by the end of it, you have fully expressed yourself, but in a more calm, loving manner. This is going to allow, one, it's going to teach you how to be better in your communication.
Interesting.
But also, and this is the part people aren't going to like, and I won't go too deep into this part. For those who may have to send it, and I would just suggest getting the book to see if they got to send it or not, all right? Because it breaks all of this down. But for those who do have to send it, it's going to give you a much greater chance of great things to come from that letter. Not that that's the focus of the letter. The focus of the letter is for your healing. So I don't care if you did send it and they never responded. I don't care if you sent it and they rejected everything you said in it. Because the purpose is your release of all those emotions, all right? And you've got to embrace forgiveness. And forgiveness is another piece of this healing puzzle. Forgiving them and forgiving yourself as well. That's the real focus. But I have seen amazing things happen because of these letters.
Really?
Yes.
From people receiving them.
Yes. I've seen...
So these are not letters that you send out that say, you're horrible, you ruined my life. That's not draft 1. You're sending out draft 2, which is more of a place of this is how this scenario impacted me.
Yeah, this is how
You're
you made me
more,
feel.
It's more of a responsibility as well. How it made me feel is that I'm hearing you say.
Absolutely, yeah, because it's very different to accuse someone and attack someone versus saying, but this is how I received it.
Right. Whether you're right or wrong.
Exactly. Because also understand this. Hurt people hurt people. And some people might reject that because they say, well, I'm hurt and I never hurt nobody. That's a lie. Whether you realize it or not, you have hurt people. One example I'll give that comes to mind, let's say you're a woman or a man and you were hurt in your last relationship and now you've become guarded. Now to you, you're still operating as a loving human being, but what you don't realize is your guardedness is still hurting either the potential partner or someone that you do get with because you're unwilling to give them your whole heart.
Wow.
All right? So you still
You're not
hurt them.
attacking them. Maybe you're not punching them or cheating on them, but you're holding back.
Exactly.
Wow.
And you're still undermining the relationship. So you're still hurting them and you're hurting yourself because you're not allowing yourself to experience the full greatness of it because you won't fully dive in because you're scared and you're guarded and that has to be fixed. But going back to the original point I want to make is in that same mode, the hurt person does not always realize how much they're hurting you. We have to understand that damaged individuals are operating from a very selfish mindset. It's I'm protecting myself. Think about the person who is overly critical of everyone else. They're always criticizing. They're not doing it because their intention is to hurt others. They're doing it because they want to keep the spotlight off of them and to protect themselves from criticism. So I'm going to hit you before you hit me.
Dang.
All right? So again, a lot of our parents, the things that they did not understand. And even if they had some semblance of an idea, they're so caught up in their own feelings, they're blinded by it. So a lot of times this letter basically takes the blinders off. When you do it in that loving manner, because like I said earlier, do you want to be heard or do you want them to receive the message? The yelling, the screaming, the lashing out, they heard that because you may have done that with them in the past, but they never received you in that moment. Now expressing yourself in a calm, loving manner, they can't help but receive you. And even those who reject what you're saying, trust me, it has hit them in a way nothing else has.
Right.
And I've seen situations where the offender has broken down in tears after realizing how bad they were being. Wow. But they never connected with that previously because their emotions, their feelings blinded them from that. It's a lot, man.
First two steps sound like a pretty deep work.
It is. It is absolutely deep work, but it's necessary work. I mean, listen, no one says healing is easy, but it's necessary and it's absolutely worth it. And it's a game changer. Like, I just don't think people understand how much better your life will be. And you know what? Let's take a moment to say this isn't even about your emotional relationship life. It's about your overall quality of life. A lot of people's illnesses are from a lack of emotional health. All right?
That's true.
And what we have to understand is a suppression of feelings, a lack of healing creates emotional stress. Stress is now it's always been the number one inducer of disease. It is the number one trigger that sets everything else wrong in your body. All right? If you cure stress, you cure the body. A lot of things, it changes after that. So your overall health, your overall quality of life is dependent on you healing and releasing that negative energy. So it's so much bigger than just a relationship.
Overall quality of life.
Yes.
Not just in that one relationship, but every relationship.
Every relationship, every aspect of life.
So do you write a letter for the 30 people that were on that Who Hurt You list? Or is it more, okay, pick like the 2 or 3 big people in your life that you really were affected by, start with those letters and then keep going?
Start with those letters. And what I have seen in all my years of doing this is that
and sometimes you don't send it to the person also, right?
there's going to be some circumstances where you wouldn't send it. Majority of the times, I would encourage sending it. All right? Now, again, I tell people that if you're a believer, pray about it as well. Because to me, God gives you the ultimate answer in that. But I do believe that the vast majority of situations, the letter needs to be sent. All right? But again, there are some caveats there. There are some differences. And you had asked what again?
Do you send a letter to everyone on the hurt list?
Oh, so yes. what I have seen from most people is that once you knock off the big ones,
First 3, 4, 5 people.
Yeah.
You don't need to write a letter.
you don't
to
have to
everyone
write
else.
that to everybody else. Because again, you see things differently now. So now think about it like this. Your hurt or how you took offense to something, you now see it differently after you resolve those other ones. Now you realize it wasn't even about you in those situations. Again, hurt people. They're just projecting negativity onto you. It wasn't even about you. They just took it out on you. And now when you now start to not internalize people's actions, it frees you in a way that you were never freed before. You know, and that's why it's so important that we have to learn not to take things personally, because we don't know where that person's actions and negativity is really coming from. A lot of times, most of the times, it's not even about us. It goes way deeper than that. And if we learn not to take it personally and not to internalize it, we can navigate the situation so much better.
Right.
Because what's happening is you allow them to trigger you. Now you get into a negative space. Now you fight fire with fire and the fire gets worse.
That's been me most of my life. Most of my previous relationships, that's how I showed up, which was I'm doing to defend myself. You're attacking me for something, whether it's true or not, I'm going to defend myself. And I'm going to fight back. What happens when we do that with our partner?
We just make it a battle. We set the stage for more battling. And here's the worst part about it. We not just battle in that moment. That battle usually turns into saying something we regret, doing something that we didn't realize we did. Now they hold on to that. So now they take that one small thing from that battle.
For years.
Exactly. That creates more battles. So you don't win. You don't win trying to fight fire with fire.
So what should you do if someone's fighting you with fire? How should you respond?
You throw water on them. Okay?
A bucket of water.
And that water is love, patience, grace. And if they don't honor that, you let them go. Unfortunately, listen, if we're in a relationship, whether that be family or romantic, and we're dictating to them that, listen, the way we do things here is we have calm conversation, we be respectful towards each other, we don't take this to a negative place, and they cannot honor that, then you stop engaging with that
What if
person.
someone says, you know what, don't try to tell me how to act and how to feel. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to react at times. It's natural to let yourself feel these things. These are human emotions. And it's okay to argue every now and then. Don't try to tell me what to do.
Again, a moment. So if I'm in a relationship and we've set the standard of healthy communication, and my partner has a moment where she starts to yell and go crazy or whatever, right? And I recognize this is a moment. I might let that slide. And when I say let it slide, I don't mean not acknowledge the issue. I simply mean, okay, let her get it out, let her vent, all right? Now, once it's done, remind her that, listen, we're not doing that. Like that was a moment. We don't make that a consistent pattern, all right? So we keep that there. I let you have that moment, but we don't get to keep doing that because that's unhealthy. And if you feel like, well, everyone should be able to just no, that's not how we do things here. Listen, everyone has to set the standard of what is acceptable in their relationship or acceptable in engaging with anyone. And again, this isn't just romantic relationship. My family knows I don't argue. I don't argue with nobody. Okay?
You can disagree.
I disagree, but we're not arguing.
What's the difference between disagreeing and arguing?
Again, disagreeing is simply respectfully, calmly, and when I say calmly, we can get passionate, but we don't get disrespectful, we don't get negative or toxic, and we simply state our opposing belief to
Don't have
something.
an attitude that you're wrong and bad. How could you think that?
Exactly. Now, again, that takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of work depending on how you've grown up and what you've engaged in, but that has to be the goal. And it's not so hard if we just practice and stick to practicing it. Like, we can't just keep making excuses for being all over the place and acting out of character. No, we have to set a certain standard, and we have to adhere to that standard. All right, and if you can't, okay, then we can't keep talking. End of story. Like, I'm not gonna entertain, like, even in social media, if someone leaves a negative comment, I'm not answering that. For what? I can recognize who are the people that just want to go back and forth with you. I'm not going to do that. I'm not arguing with you. I will state my case. You either take it or you don't.
Right.
That's it. Speak your truth and leave it at that.
What would be let's say, okay, I did step one, I wrote the list, I started writing letters, I sent some of these letters out, but I'm still feeling triggered. I still don't feel healed. Is there more steps to
Yes.
healing 101? Or is it just now is it time?
No. So the other part I mentioned earlier was forgiveness.
Oh,
all
yeah.
right. And forgiveness is a huge part. But what people have to understand with forgiveness isn't a snap of the finger thing. All right. Meaning you could do all of this. You can say, I forgive them. I'm good. I'm moving forward. And like you said, 2-3 weeks later, something happens and you're triggered.
You got to keep forgiving.
Exactly. In that moment, you have to stop yourself. See, the mistake we make is that when we get triggered, we allow ourselves to dive into it. We dwell in that moment. And so now you're staying in that negative place. What you have to do is recognize the moment, say, no, I forgave them. What's done is done. I'm moving forward. And that's it. Keep practicing it. And as you practice it, you'll notice you're triggered less. You'll notice it's affecting you less. Now you'll get to a point where it doesn't bother you at all. You're not fazed by it. So it's a reprogramming of the brain to say, you know what, this doesn't matter anymore. It's done. It's in the past. But it's not just forgiving them, it's forgiving ourselves. And that's a big hurdle for a lot of people. There are people listening to this who will be able to say, I forgave that person, but you're still beating yourself up. You're still holding the mistake over your own head. Whatever that is. And you have to learn that we all make mistakes. We all fall short. Learn from them, grow, move forward. Do not dwell on them. And so it's the same thing. Every time you find yourself beating yourself up, no, I forgive myself. I'm done. What's done is done. I'm moving forward. That's it. You keep saying it to yourself. You will get to a place where it doesn't bother you anymore.
Is it harder to forgive someone that did something horrible to you, or is it harder to forgive yourself?
It depends on what they did. I think that's going to vary from situation to situation. But I will say, if I had to lean towards one, I would say forgiving ourselves is harder.
Why is it harder?
Because we live with ourselves.
Because we live with ourselves.
Yes. You see, like, that person can do that one thing, and it can be very hurtful. But we may not see them again. We may not face a circumstance like that again. There may be buffers in our life that allows us to detach from what happened. But when we make our mistake, we have to live with that. We have to face ourselves in the mirror. And then there may be other mistakes we make that pile onto that. See, that person may have one offense that we have to forgive them for, but we can end up having several offenses against ourselves. And now it becomes a harder journey for a lot of people to just accept that we're all flawed and we're all gonna fall short. I'll keep saying that. We none of us get it perfect. None of us has never made a mistake. And you know how they say even in business, everyone who's successful has failed. And so in life, it's the same thing. Anyone who's successful at life has made mistakes. You're either gonna learn from them or you're gonna dwell on them. And too many people are dwelling in their mistakes.
Is there anything in your life you haven't healed yet?
You really put me on the spot today.
You know.
So I'm not gonna get too deep into it, but I will say that I've done the letter before. All right, so I've done this whole process.
Sometimes you need to write multiple
right.
letters to the same person.
No, so the person I did it for, I did all the big ones, so to speak. But there was a small one with a family member that I didn't realize was a problem till years after. Because to me at the time, I kind of brushed under the rug. It's whatever, no big deal. Now I will say this, and I'm not trying to make excuses. The issue, I don't believe, has any detrimental impact on my relationships. All right, because I do believe there. Don't do that.
Some there.
Don't do
Some
that.
there, though.
No,
I know.
You're right. I'm not. Listen, I'm gonna handle it. The letter's gonna be written.
When?
All right?
By when?
By next week. By next week.
What day?
Give me till. You know what?
Why not write it on your flight home? Write it on your flight home.
You know what? I'll do it today.
Let's go, baby. I like that.
I'll do it today.
Okay.
I got time at the hotel room.
So you'll write the letter you need to write.
Yes.
And then is this a letter you send to this person?
Yeah, that one will be sent. Absolutely.
Interesting. Now, do you do a two-step process there where you write, or a two-draft process where you write
Yeah, I would still do.
And then
I truly believe in all those steps, and I believe that we should not skip any of them because skipping them can really throw things off. All right, because again, you don't want to say, "Well, I'm not really that mad, so I don't need draft 1," right? But then, for all you know, you've been suppressing more anger than you realize.
just say, I f***ing hate you because.
Exactly.
Started with that.
Yes.
And let it rip.
Yes.
And if nothing really comes, great. But allow yourself to go as crazy as you want.
Exactly. So I would not skip a step, and I would encourage everyone, if you do this process, do not skip steps. Don't remix steps. I've seen some people say, well, I didn't do a letter, I sent a text. No.
It doesn't work.
Exactly. It's not the same thing. You can't send a text. You can't do one draft. Don't skip things. Do the whole thing.
Why
as
does
outlined.
writing a letter, why is that more powerful than typing or texting or voice messaging a letter?
So, because voice message, text, typing is not bad. All right.
So you can type a letter.
Type or
and print
writing
it
is
out.
fine, yes. But text and voice message is bad because inherently and subconsciously, those are quick hitting ways of expressing ourselves. All right. We don't do a voice message to leave a 10, 15-minute message. All right. We typically do it for a quick 1 minute, 2 minute, 3. It can be longer at times, but there's this thing in us that doesn't allow us to really draw it all the way out. Because if what you're feeling needs to be a 30-page long letter, you're not going to do a 30-page worth voice memo, chances are. Unless you wrote it first and then you expressed it through a voice recording. Or what you can do is you could record yourself, all right? Let it all out in recording and then re-record the second draft. So you can do it by voice recording. But when it's a text voice memo and all that kind of stuff, or text messages, because again, texts are condensed ways of expressing ourselves. They're not made for long expressions. So even if you say, well, no, you can't, it's just not gonna work the same. And it's very easy for you to feel like, well, typing all of that, and if you gotta go back to type more, and it's gonna spread over to like 10, 20 texts, most people aren't gonna do that. They're gonna try to make it shorter. So no, do the letter, but the alternative, voice recording, is an acceptable method.
Wow. Okay. So we've talked about, so that's the thing you still need to heal, still work on yourself personally, is writing that letter.
Yeah. And I will say this, because I want it to be understood that I do believe there's some level of blockage because of it. So even though I said I don't think it had, or I don't believe, and I'm pretty confident in saying it doesn't have, it's always a might. You're right. It's always possible. But I guess from my evaluation, I don't see it pouring into any of my, into a romantic relationship. But,
Never know.
And let me say this, not directly, but indirectly. So what I mean by that is sometimes the things that we're holding on to, and this is just maybe a random example, but let's say the weight of these things causes you to fall into depression at times, all right? So even though you may not see it as I'm directly going to be negative towards my partner, you falling into depression impacts the relationship.
It's still you being a hurt person.
Exactly, and they have to deal with that.
Yeah.
So it can always indirectly impact our relationships, and that's why it's important for us to not sweep it under the rug. And so that's why I'm completely committed to doing it, and I was planning on doing it because I know that I don't want to leave any stone unturned. You know what I'm saying?
How long have you been thinking about this?
Since the beginning of the year. Since the beginning of the year.
The time now. Now's the
Yeah,
time.
it's time.
Wow.
It dawned on me in the beginning of the year. I was like, you know what? I think I got to do this. But then I had went somewhere, and then it, life, and you just keep sweeping on the rug. And that's the mistake. That's the problem that we have. We let life get the best of us, and we get busy, and we get distracted. And again, doing these exercises isn't easy all the time. But we've got to commit to it. And we got to commit to understanding if we want the best for ourselves, for our life, for our relationships, we've got to cover all the bases when it comes to healing.
Let's say someone's single and they're meeting different people to date, right? And they don't want to, well, maybe this is something they should do. What would be 3 questions they should ask to know if they have the right connection with someone? Seeing as you said, connection is something that you can't create. You either have it or you don't. Mm-hmm. What are 3 questions to ask that person in the first hour of meeting them if you think you have connection?
I don't even think it's questions to ask. I'll give you 3 things they should do. All right? 3 things. Number 1, be your authentic self. All right? So no representative, no game playing, no trying to maneuver this because you really like this person and want them. No, just be yourself. And either they're going to like you and love you for who you are, or they're not. All
What
right?
does that mean? Like, say everything that's on your mind, be as like quirky as you want to be,
Just be-
unfiltered.
If that's who you are, yes.
Yeah.
If that's who you are. So if you're a
So
quirky
don't be on your
person-
best behavior of like, okay, I'm going to let this slide and this slide.
No. So let me give you a perfect example. Let's say for a woman, she's dating a guy and she views this guy as very conservative. All right. So she thinks she has to come and be an angel on this date, be a good girl. All right. But lo and behold, she's a little scandalous. She's a little out there. All right. But what she doesn't realize is he likes that.
Right.
He actually wants the side of her she's not showing. All right. But she's projecting what she thinks that she needs to bring to the table because of who she thinks he is. But she doesn't know the full real him. So a lot of people don't even realize they're shooting themselves in the foot because you're doing you're being what you think you should be, rather than just be yourself. And if they're connecting with that, great. If they don't, so be it. Let's not play any games with each other. So again, if you're quirky, be quirky. If you're a very affectionate person, be affectionate. Granted, there can be boundaries drawn so that we don't make any confusion as to
Sure.
sending the wrong message. But don't hinder being your true self.
Yes.
Because that only throws things off.
Okay. That's number
Second
1.
thing is be very honest and transparent. All right. So it's one thing to be yourself, but sometimes when the conversation goes into certain areas, we don't want to be open and honest about what we're thinking or how we feel. Let's say, for example, not that people need to be talking about politics on the first date, but let's just say they ask you about politics, right?
Say how you feel.
Yes, because what purpose does it serve for you to try to dodge it, to then find out later that you guys don't get together? Right. Perfect example, I had a client one time who met this guy. She felt that there was a connection there. She felt like this was it, right? And they had some other issues, but one of the sticking issues they had was he was a Trump supporter, she was not.
Wow.
Okay? Now I said, listen, so you're telling me that you guys may not get together over a man who will only be president for X amount of years, okay? But your relationship can span way past that. Now, I understand for people it goes deeper than that.
His values or something
Exactly.
else. Yeah.
But the point is, if he swept it under the rug and tried to just avoid the his political
get you to
standing,
like him.
exactly,
Yeah.
only for it to come out later and destroy everything, you only delayed the inevitable. I'd rather know that we're not on the same page from day one than to wait into year 1 or year 2. That makes no sense. All right. And again, to me, if there's a true connection, we're either going to have the same values or we're going to be able to work through them.
Yeah.
Because connection does not mean that everything is going to be in perfect alignment as far as how we see things. But we will be able to embrace each other's differences. That difference wouldn't make us want to walk away from each other. All right. So again, be yourself and answer things openly and transparently, so we're not leaving any mystery here or playing any games.
Yep. And then the third thing?
The third thing is just be aware. And to me, what I mean by that is, and I'm going to use men right now, because I do feel like as men, we'll meet a woman, and again, she might be awesome, be great. And a lot of times we know deep inside, something's not there. She's just not the one. But we really like her, or we really like aspects about her, so we want to hold on to this. So you're allowing this desire to blind you and not allow you to be aware of the fact that no, you know she's not it. And accept that. Accept that and walk away, end it, because there's no point in dragging this on. At the very least, if you want to continue it, then be honest about this ain't going anywhere. And if we want to have fun, if you want to have fun with each other, that's 2 adults making their own decision. But don't continue on under the guise of I'm looking for a serious relationship with this woman when I know deep inside she's not the one for me.
Yeah.
All right. And the same thing happens with women. It's like, yo, just be aware, because I would tell you, everyone that I've spoken to about connection and has expressed that they've experienced this, it was pretty much an instant thing. It wasn't an overtime thing. So as long as you're aware.
That's why you hear some people are like, we got married in like 3 months.
Yes.
Because we just knew like something was connected.
Exactly. And what I hate that's happening in society now is love bombing. All right. So love bombing is a hot topic, and I one day want to do a video on it. But people view these fast-moving relationships as, oh, it's love bombing, oh, it's toxic, and it's like that's not every situation. And I think one of the most important things to understand about love bombing is a one-way action, meaning it's one person trying to overwhelm you with all this love to get you to buy into it and move forward. Connection is a two-way experience. When two people are feeling this draw to each other, both feeling into each other, that's real. You shouldn't run from that. And you shouldn't say, oh, it's happening too fast. I would argue real love, real connection is fast. That over time stuff is you're learning to tolerate each other. You're becoming attached to each other. You're becoming conditioned to each other's presence. It's not actual real love or connection. You know what I'm saying? And so people have been brainwashed, in my opinion. I just think, and again, if you really sit down and examine these situations, you will see the huge differences. I remember one time I had an Uber driver. He said he met his wife. The first time he met her, they went on a date, he knew she was the one.
Gosh, that's
They've been
crazy.
married 65 years.
Wow.
Happy as hell. He said he's like, he would never leave. Like they're still affectionate, they're still loving. Maybe it was 55 years. Either way, it was a long time.
Wow.
All right. And he's like, he was telling me how he doesn't understand how this world works now. It's just crazy to him and all these things. It didn't take him forever to want to marry his wife.
Of the people that you think are in a relationship for over a year, your estimate, what percentage of them are really happy and have true connection? The people in a relationship for over a year, what's the percent of people that you think, let's say in America, that have true connection and are not just in it because of chemistry or maybe there's compatibility or desire for the first year or there's some whatever?
The number that's coming to me is 20%.
Wow.
And I might be being generous.
Wow.
I would argue the vast majority, even past a year, are not truly happy and there's not a true connection.
So you're telling me you believe that 80% of people that are in a relationship don't have real connection.
Yeah.
The why? Okay, here's one. One, why do people stay in relationships if they don't have connection? And two, if that many people are with the wrong people, if they all broke up, could they find the right person, or would it maybe never find someone with real connection?
Okay, so why we stay even when there's not a connection? One, because people don't even understand the concept of connection.
Okay.
So it's a very foreign thing to a lot of people. And what they've been taught by others is it's not about connection. It's about, well, you like them, they like you, and you get together and you see if you can make it work, right? And because other relationships that are together without connection want to validate their relationship, they will encourage others who don't have connection to move forward in their relationship, all right? Because again, they don't want to face that fact. One quick example.
People are also afraid to be alone, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Afraid to be alone, afraid to start over, afraid to be wrong, because especially in a situation where other people told you this wasn't it and you fought hard to defend it, you don't want to face that. There's also I don't want the other person to win. And I use that with a lot of women that happens. Whereas if there's another woman that's somewhere in the situation that he dated, or maybe there was anything that happened, it becomes a competition.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not going to let him go because I don't want her to win. Not because I want this man or he's so amazing.
That seems exhausting.
It's super exhausting. But there are a lot of women who engage in those kind of situations.
Man, that's tough.
Or have fallen into those types of situations. So
I think another one is, well, we've invested this much time. I don't want to lose time.
that is a huge one,
Really?
especially for women. Women, and it's everybody, but I do think it's even more so for women. Women have a very hard time walking away from anything they've invested a lot of energy, time, and emotion into. This is even for their careers. There are women right now listening to this who are not happy in their careers. They have not been happy for a long time. They may be successful. They may be doing very well, but they never felt at peace and at home there. But it is so hard to walk away when they gave so many years to it, so much time and energy to it. They don't know how to just let it go. And so the same thing happens in their relationships. Yes, if they've invested so much time, even though they know he's not it, they know this relationship is not what it needs to be, they don't want to walk away from that. So all of those things paralyze people and keep them in a situation where there's no connection.
Yeah, I think I interrupted you. I'm not sure if you were to say something else, but I chimed in at one point. So
I can't remember.
Yeah, no
But
worries.
the second part was you said, so you said, why do they stay when there's not a connection?
Yes,
Oh, and if they
and
were
if-
to break up,
If 80% of these people said, you know what, we're breaking up because we don't have connection, could they find someone with connection in the next couple of years? Or would they ever find that person?
I think it's very possible. Can I say that it's yes for everybody? No, but I think for the most people, yes. I think what people don't realize is, again, there are a lot of people who, I know a woman, all right? She was a client many years ago. She, make a long story short, so she married her guy knowing he wasn't it. She actually wanted to break up a few times before he proposed, but found herself kind of feeling stuck. They didn't know how to reject it. She went through with it. Many years later, she meets a guy that she feels in a connection with that she never felt before. Way more into this man than she ever was into her husband. But again, to the outside who doesn't understand this, they'll just say, oh, this woman lost interest or she's a horrible wife or whatever. But no, she always knew there was no connection with her husband. Right. She didn't even want to marry this guy. There are men and women who have gotten married knowing this is not the one.
On their wedding days, they knew.
Yes. I had another client who said her whole family told her, if you want to stop, they were at the wedding. They were in a room in the back. Said, if you want to stop the wedding right now, we will support you.
Let's go.
She said she walked out and walked down that aisle, got married. And she said, you know why she did it? Because she deserved to be married.
Oh!
Not because that man was the one. Not because there was a connection.
That's
no,
the
because
worst.
at that point she felt like she deserved it.
I'm 30, I'm this, I deserve, my friends are all married.
Exactly.
Now I deserve it.
Exactly. And now, and
Oh,
she
man,
can
that makes me
acknowledge that
sick.
right now.
That would make me sick if I was that guy, and if I loved this woman very much, and I was giving my life to this woman, and she, in her heart, behind the scenes, 15 minutes before walking out, everyone's saying, walk away, we know this isn't the right for you, you know it's not right for you, and she goes, you know what, I deserve to be married, so I'm gonna do it anyways, even if it's not right. Mm-hmm. That's like so painful for the man, I feel like, too.
Yeah,
It's more painful being in a relationship where someone doesn't want to be with you than them breaking up with you, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
Then you're living a lie as married. You're like, okay, this person really doesn't want to be with me for me.
it's more hurtful because you're trapped in a situation where you're never going to get what you deserve and need.
Oh, man.
So at least if they break up with you, the breakup hurts, but you've been set free.
Free.
And now you can get what you deserve.
Free.
But to stay there and they don't really want to be with you, and if they don't really want to be with you, they're not going to pour into you the way that you need. You're never going to have happiness and peace. So absolutely, it's much worse to be in that situation than to be broken up with. But I would say that a lot of men don't even realize what's going on in these situations. And what men have to realize is, listen, like I would argue in that scenario, he's not really in love with her. He's infatuated with her.
That's why he's willing to put up with things and tolerate things that he doesn't want to do.
Exactly.
To have this idea of her.
Exactly. He's infatuated. He's attached.
Interesting.
And so he views it as love, you know? And I'm not saying no situation is ever real love, but a lot of people get love mixed up, you know? And again, to me, real love is a two-way thing, all right? And if we really love each other, then, well, I was going to say, we really love each other, we'd be able and willing to pour into each other. But unfortunately, this is where lack of healing comes in, because that's what, like, there's some situations where two people can have a connection, can truly be in love. But if there's a lack of healing, it can still get thrown off. There's a lot of people who met their connection, but it did not happen because of fear. It did not happen because of a lack of healing. It did not happen because this was foreign to them. This was scary to them. It's very overwhelming to meet that person you have a connection with. It pulls out all your insecurities. Ooh. It makes you vulnerable in a way that you've never been vulnerable. And that is a lot. And so people will now run from their connection and go be with the person they're not really in love with because it's safer there.
Why? If you find someone with this connection, this is a great match, would you sabotage it over and over again to go find someone who's not a match? Why do people do this?
Because, so there's a few things to consider. One, the person you have a connection with has the power to hurt you like nobody else.
Oh my gosh.
So if your perspective, let's say you're a woman and you perceive all men as they're gonna hurt you, they're gonna do you wrong, right?
They're going to lie, they're going to cheat, they can't be trusted.
So now I'm faced with guy A, who is Mr. Perfect. He does everything right, and I have an amazing connection with him.
He pours into me love, support, everything.
Okay? And there's a connection there. But then I have guy B, where it's not a connection there, but over here, I feel like I have one more value, all right? Because with perfect guy, I'm looking at him like, this amazing man, how do I even deserve this? A lot of women have a struggle of feel like they truly deserve this man or that they are truly good enough for this man, all right? They may not all verbalize it, but behind closed doors, that is a struggle for a lot of women. Also, it's the situation where, again, if you view men as they're gonna hurt you, the guy B, who's not good for you, is showing you they're not good from the jump. So you know what's coming, all right? It's easier to deal with that than the perfect guy, and I say perfect in the sense of he's just an amazing guy, than that guy who you have the connection with, where it's almost like you're waiting for the pin to drop and it still hasn't come yet. What the hell's going on here? It's like
too good to be true.
Yeah, and you're waiting to get hit. There was literally an episode on Divorce Court one time where this woman, she leaves this man. They asked the woman, why did you leave this man? What was the situation? She said, he was perfect. He cooked, he cleaned, he was my best friend, he was an amazing partner. They said, so why did you leave him? Verbatim, this is what she said. I was just waiting for him to turn around and hit me. Now, everyone in the audience and even the judge didn't understand what was going on there. Oh, you're just ridiculous. You're a horrible woman. No, what she's saying is she is so conditioned to men being dysfunctional, hurtful, lying, cheating, whatever, that she could not believe that this man was this good. And so now the fear of something has to happen drives you crazy.
Good goodness.
And so now what will happen is...
Is this a non-healed woman?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you will either run or you will try to sabotage because you've got to make something bad stick out. You got to validate your fear.
Because you may not like it, but that's normal.
Yes.
It becomes normal for you.
Yes.
And whatever is not normal is unfamiliar and scary.
Yes.
Even if it's good for you.
Yes.
Even if it's peaceful and loving. You've never had it. It's unfamiliar. So you're like, what's wrong?
Exactly. And when the hell is something wrong going to happen? Something wrong has to happen. That's what I've been trained to believe. So now I can't take this insanity of waiting.
Oh my gosh.
That's what happens to a lot of people. A lot of people. And I'm telling you, that's why, and let me give you another angle.
Give it to me.
So I've had a lot of clients, women clients, who have used the term, I felt like I was losing myself when dealing with a man that they had a connection with, all right?
Really?
Yes. So here's the problem. If that woman has been hurt, all right, in all these situations she has been hurt, she has experienced some level of damage and trauma, she now becomes guarded, all right? That guardedness is her shield. It is her protection in her eyes, all right? But it also allows her to not be fully vulnerable, okay? So now she's operating under this shell, behind these walls. The man she has a connection with forces you to come out of that. So now you feel like you're losing yourself, but you're not losing yourself. You're losing who you've conditioned yourself to believe you are
my goodness.
out of the need for protection. Even though it wasn't really protecting you, it was hurting you even more the whole time. All right? So now...
You're losing that ego part of yourself.
Yes.
The masks,
and
the
the
guards.
safety of the guard, the safety of the walls.
Wow.
You're not allowed to have those walls in a relationship that you have a connection. It demands greater of you. But the dysfunctional guy, the no good guy, the loser, does not demand that of you.
Wow.
So you can continue to operate behind your walls, giving 3/4, half of your heart, all right, and validate it because you're with a guy who's beneath you, so to speak, who you're not really in love with.
You're more in control of the situation.
You have emotional control with this guy. You feel like your emotions are all over the damn place with the other guy. And you can't deal with that. It's nerve-wracking.
Why is it so hard for women to deal with that? To deal with the full expression of their emotions, vulnerability?
Because I believe it's because women as they grow up, they're much more emotionally giving of themselves. So because of that, even when they get into relationships, that first relationship where she fell in love or thought she was in love, she really gave herself. See, as men, we don't always fully give ourselves. That situation where we do that is a lot more rare. We have to feel like this is the one, all right? Whereas a woman, if she feel like I can be with this guy, I want to be with this guy, she gives of herself. And since this tends to happen typically at a young age, high school, early college, at a time where men at that age are boys and don't know how to handle a woman's love, emotions, and the commitment that's required in that relationship, it is more than likely he's going to hurt her. Whether it's completely his fault, whether it's also her doing some things, because it's not only the man that does wrong, it's the woman too. But the point is they're both young. They both have not learned how to be mature and master their emotions. And so she's gonna typically get hurt. And now from that point, she says, I will never let that happen to me again. The wall comes up. Now she's guarded. Now she's trying to manage her vulnerability.
Jeez.
When she was younger, she wasn't fully managing it. If anything, when women are younger, it's other people trying to pull them back. Don't be so into it. You can't be all into the guy. Relax. It's
true.
But she wants to just give.
Act like you don't care. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, act like you don't care. All this game playing. But once she gets older, now it's okay. I'm not going that far.
Wow.
But the problem is that works well with the no good guy that shoots you in the foot with the guy you have a connection with, or that's the really good guy for you. And so it's a horrible negative cycle, but again, lack of healing. And listen, the same thing can happen to a man, but here's the difference. Men, let's say when he's younger, thinks he falls in love, gives his heart to a girl, she crushes it. And he can't go on a vengeful, F these women, F life, I don't care anymore, I'm gonna do whatever I want, right? But then if he meets an amazing woman, there's a greater chance of him being willing to embrace that she's an amazing woman and give it another chance.
Why?
Because he has not been conditioned to believe that all women are horrible.
Why are women conditioned this way?
Because they're getting stories from their mothers, their aunts, their sisters, their friends, society, TV, all saying men bad, men bad, men bad, men do wrong. The only place they can see a story of love is Disney, and not even Disney anymore, maybe. I don't know, but you know, that fairy tale doesn't exist. All right, men are not. It's not pushed as much on men. Are there some men who have been pushed to the edge of believing all women are bad? Yes, and those men act horribly, and those men will reject that amazing woman when she comes his way. But a lot of men still have hope. A lot of women, they don't have hope. They're just trying to work with it. All right? So that's what makes it a huge difference. So when the good, amazing woman comes his way, he has a reason to think maybe this could really be it. When the good, amazing man comes her way, it's, nah, this can't be real. Because that doesn't exist. Men like this don't exist. How could this be happening right now?
And if you convince yourself that enough, you'll find something wrong with the person, whether they did something wrong or not.
Exactly. You will create, listen, I hate to say this, but this is truth. Some women, and I say some, will create false narratives. They will create stories that don't actually exist because they need something. And this even happens when it comes to dating. I have a video about you will always be the bad guy. And what I tell men is that if you don't, there's a lot of women out there that if you don't give them what they wanted ultimately, whatever it was, they're gonna at some point view you as the bad guy.
What does that usually be? If you didn't give me a ring, if you didn't do this for me,
Yeah,
if you
so
didn't
let's
do this
say, for
me.
example, you met a woman, she deep inside wanted a real committed relationship, and you never gave that to her. And let's just say you weren't even lying to her. You were telling her, I really don't really want a relationship. But she was going along with it, hoping she would get that. She doesn't get that. To her now, she can't view you in a positive light. Because in order for her to break free from this and suppress her emotions, she has to view you as the bad guy. She has to create a negative narrative about you. That's the only way to make it easier for her. Now, again, I stress, this isn't all women, but this happens with a lot of women. And so now what happens is,
Is this why every, almost, I think maybe all but like one of my past relationships made me out to be a bad person when I didn't give them what they wanted?
Absolutely.
And said back, even if I didn't do anything bad or wrong or out of integrity, if it just didn't work out, then it was like, okay, they never wanted to speak to me again. I was the worst person in the world. They couldn't be my friend. They talked bad about me, whatever. And I was like, just because I didn't give you what you want, we want different things.
Yes.
But now I'm this horrible human being.
Yes. Because if they believe in good Lewis, that makes it a struggle for them to accept not being with Lewis.
Wow.
That makes it a struggle for them to accept how the situation didn't go the way they wanted. They have to project something negative onto you.
Because if at the end of the day, the relationship didn't work out, what are they saying to themselves? That I wasn't good enough for him, or something has to be wrong with him so that I feel like I'm good.
So there's
myself.
a part of them. So I wasn't watching the movie. The movie was on TV, and there was a scene that popped up where this girl said this guy just broke up with her, right? And all the girls on the table was like, oh, he's just afraid of his emotions. He's this, he's that. Then this one person at the table, who was actually a guy disguised as a woman, said, are y'all blind? He just wants his space. He doesn't want to be with you. They all got silent and looked at him. And he said, oh no, it's his emotions. Like he had to change the narrative. So what it shows you is that there's a part of that woman who does think, damn, is it me? Am I not good enough? What's wrong with me? Mm-hmm. In order to fight that, she has to now come with the other side. No, it's him. He has the issues. He's wrong. That's the way to fight that. Now, in my opinion, we have to learn, and I would encourage people, listen, it cannot be about you and they're not a bad guy. You see what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't have to be either or. We can understand that we just weren't the right match.
Right.
We weren't the right fit.
That's it.
That's all it is to it. It doesn't mean you're not good enough as a woman. You can be an amazing, great woman.
But we weren't the right match.
Exactly.
We didn't have a connection.
Exactly. She wasn't for you. You weren't for her. That's it. If we can learn to accept that, we don't have to hold on to any negative narrative about the person.
Yeah.
But guess what? Again, and I have to say, there are men who do this too.
Sure, of course.
It's the same way like when some man will try to approach the woman, she rejects him and immediately, oh, you this, you that. You know, he goes off on her because now I have to make you into a bad person because you didn't give me what I wanted.
Yeah.
Because it makes it easier for me to accept the outcome of this.
It's funny you're saying this. There's something you mentioned earlier about how when a good man shows up, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes a woman says like, this is too good to be true, or when's something bad gonna happen. I remember I was in a relationship about a decade ago. I think it was 9 to 10 years ago. The relationship was going amazing for the first 3, 4, maybe 5 months. I mean, it was like, I felt connection, chemistry, compatibility. I felt all those things. Whether I had them all or not is irrelevant. Mm-hmm. But there was one night that she thought I was doing something wrong that I wasn't doing. She made something up, was so convinced that I did something that I didn't do. Mm-hmm. No matter what I said to say like, hey, I'm not doing this, it's like she couldn't believe it. She had to hold on to this belief of like that I did this thing wrong. We go through, I'm just kind of like, what is happening now? She's angry, passive aggressive, not speaking to me for like 24 hours. I'm like, what just happened? I have no clue what happened. We were one moment, everything was fine. We're happy, connecting. The next moment, it was like she flipped and was like pushing me away and blaming me for something I didn't do. And the next day I'm like, what is going on? Like after we finally talked, I go, what is going on? She goes, to be honest, and this was probably like a big red flag that I should have noticed right away. But she said, to be honest, I didn't feel like I would meet someone like you at this stage of my life.
You see?
She was like 26, 27. And I think I was like 29. And she goes, I didn't think I'd meet someone like you at this stage. I thought I'd meet you like after I was 30. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what does that even mean? I wasn't even aware of that. But really what I'm hearing now is like, I didn't even know this was possible, you know? And
it's way more common than you think.
Or if I was ready for someone who was like healthier version, because she had a lot of stuff that she hadn't healed yet from stuff, I won't get into it, and I don't think she was ready for love and someone who was just like, I'm here to love you. I'm here to like be support. I'm a good guy. I'm here to show up. I'm patient. I'm present. I'm like, we have fun, all these things. Mm-hmm. And I think after like 3-4 months of that, she was like, wait a minute, like, this can't be real. I was like, what are you talking about? Just embrace it. Like, let's just do this thing. And it ended up being another 6-7 months of like up and down, chaos, stress, love, resistance, and to eventually where it just kind of drove me mad. Where I was like, I can't do this anymore. You know, we had this thing, and then you weren't willing to like continue on with it, and now I'm trying to stay in this thing longer and make it work, and it's not working, and it ended up not working. So why is that so? I mean, is that women under 30s, over 30s? Is that all ages? Is that, what is that?
No, I think it just depends on the experience of the woman,
Yeah.
what she's been through, the household she's been brought up in, if she's been hurt before. Because, you know, granted, I do, if I'm going to be honest, I do think that as the woman gets older, the chances of her having these issues or struggles becomes greater because she's been through more. Chances are, you know, you're past 30, you may have been through a couple of relationships. You may have been through a few minutes you really liked and now that hurts you. Whereas if you're 22, 23, there's less of a chance. You see, it can still happen, but there's just less of a chance. So
Yeah.
that's the what can change there, you know? But I have to say, man, it's so much more common than people realize. I have so many stories from men clients and even friends and associates who've all experienced this, that all of a sudden the woman saying, I can't do this. Like everything going perfect and saying things like, you're too perfect, saying things like Lisa, I didn't think I was gonna meet you right now. I had a client who went through a whole long scenario with a woman, and she said that to him. She said, I did not expect to meet you at this point in my life.
Then why are you with this person? Why are you dating this person?
Because again, she came into it saying, good looking guy, I like this guy. She didn't know she was gonna feel this way. She didn't know it was gonna be like this. And she thought you'd probably be like any other guy who was gonna, you know, do stupid stuff and piss her off. But the more and more you show that you were an amazing man, it's like, wait, hold up, what's going on here?
Why even go on dates if you're not looking for that connection? If you're not looking for that greatest version of someone that you could partner with?
Because again, a lot of people don't even believe it exists. Or a lot of people are not aware of it. And a lot of people just want companionship. And to rationalize to yourself that I should only entertain them if I can find a connection can be discouraging because you feel like, dang, connection is hard as hell to find. So if that's the only purpose of me going out, then it becomes more stressful. I just want to go out and have fun. I just want to enjoy myself. And that's normal, I think, for both sides. We want to enjoy life. We want to meet people. It doesn't mean they don't deep inside want that. But again, I would argue that depending on where they are and what they understand, their emotional awareness, they may not truly be ready for that. You know, and if you haven't healed, chances are you're not ready for it.
Let's talk about expectations. What type of expectations does someone have going into a relationship of their partner? Should they have the highest level of expectations? Should they have low expectations? What should we have?
So I don't believe in expectations at all.
Having them?
Having them at all. Because I believe expectation kills appreciation. All right? So I don't expect, and maybe maybe this is semantics, but I don't expect. I simply set the standard of what I desire, and you either meet the standard or you don't. You see what I'm saying?
So how does that,
and
so how does that
you,
look?
If you meet the standard, I appreciate your efforts.
So how would that conversation look like?
It's just simply expressing what we need. Like, I'm a believer in we got to learn to get things on the table quickly. So I'm going to ask that person, what do you need in the relationship? What's going to make you happy? What are you hoping to receive from me? All right? And granted, again, it could be semantics. Maybe we could call that still expectations, right? But to me, it's about the mindset of it.
Yeah.
All right. When it's viewed as an expectation, is well, you're supposed to do this, and when you're supposed to do this, why would I appreciate what you're supposed to do? Why would I give you credit for what you're supposed to do?
Wow.
I will not. But when it's something that I desire, and you're willing to fulfill that, I can appreciate that. I gave you my needs, and you met them. You see? So the mindset is different. And that's why I don't like to look at it as expectations. I don't think anyone should. It's just, this is what I need. And I'm going to ask you, what do you need from me? And as I'm willing to fulfill if those desires I am willing to fulfill, then you will have that. But I still expect appreciation in return. And when you don't show me you appreciate it, that's a problem.
And what happens if someone says, well, here's all my desires. I want this, 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 and this, and the list goes on and on and on. And you can't fulfill those desires.
We're not a good match. we're not a good fit. We have to accept that early on. There's no reason to move forward. Perfect example. I'm someone who doesn't mind paying, but I don't like planning. Okay, so I'm not a planner. I don't plan my own events. I don't plan a lot of things. So planning trips, I'm not saying I would never do it, but I'm not a planner. But I'll pay. So if I met a woman, she wants to go somewhere, hey, plan it, schedule it. Here's my card.
Book the flights, do
Exactly.
everything, all the details.
Boom,
paid for
done.
it.
Now, if a woman says to me, listen, I don't like that. You need to plan the trips. We're not a good fit. I'm sorry. Because I know that's not something that I'm okay with, that I excel in, none of that. And it may seem small. And that's the thing. People have to stop trying to minimize certain issues or certain things that we don't like or that don't connect with us. I know I'm not a planner. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's why I get other people to do that aspect. And I take care of the rest. I'm a doer. I can do things, but I don't plan. So if we can't embrace those differences, why are we forcing the issue? And the reality is that there's a woman who would love nothing but to plan if I'm
All
going to
day
take
long.
care of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
So why do I need to fight with you about this? It makes no sense.
What if 90% of everything else you can meet and agree on, but 10% is like, I don't like these things.
That 10% can become a huge deal that dominoes into other issues. So let's use a different example. I'm introverted, they're introverted. I prefer balance. I think balance should be the main focus of a relationship. We don't want to have too much of one thing, so to speak, a lot of times, depending on what it is. So if we're both introverted, I know for me, that's not a good thing in the long run. Can I deal with that? And that's the other thing. It's not about what you can deal with today or next year. Can you deal with it 5 years from now, 10 years from now? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Because again, the goal should not be a temporary relationship. My goal is long term, all right? I know that both of us being too introverted is going to be a way down on the relationship in years later, all right? So I'm not gonna do that. All right, I know from the jump I need some balance there. So that may seem like, well, that's not a big deal. It's only 10%, but that's a huge 10% if you know you can't deal with it. Wow. If let's say something sexual, let's say there's a sexual act that you like, let's just be real. Let's say it's oral sex, all right? And let's say as the woman, you love oral sex, or the man, and your partner's like, hell no, no oral sex, not happening. But everything about them is amazing. If you know this is a desire strong enough that will make you either become irritated with your partner or seek to get that desire fulfilled elsewhere, it's a deal breaker. Why force it? It may seem small, but it's small enough to become, it's big enough to become a bigger issue later.
What about in some religious instances that might say, you know what, just suppress those desires, like those aren't desires that need to be fulfilled, like focus on these things, focus on, the connection and other stuff, but don't focus on those desires. Suppress them. They're not healthy. They're not good for you. They're addictive personalities. What would you say to something like that?
I would say, number one, do not suppress, you need to resolve, all right? And you need to resolve before you move forward.
What does that mean, resolve?
Resolve. Okay, so let's say, for example, you're a man and you love watching porn, all right? And like you said, religiously, they're saying don't do it. And even your partner says, I don't like you watching all this porn, all right? If you now get with her trying to suppress, but you have not resolved your desire for porn, it's gonna come back to haunt you. And when it does, it's gonna hit even harder. It's gonna cause a bigger problem. So what you need to do is tackle that issue first. Resolve it. Get to the root of it. Why do I need to watch this porn? Which, let me just say, I think men should not watch it. It's poison, but that's a whole other discussion, all right? And, I definitely think it'd be beneficial for people to at least minimize it, all right? But I know there's a lot of different perspectives on that. That's just my personal opinion. But anyways, it would be best to resolve and address that first, all right? And then you can walk into your marriage or relationship with that not being an issue. Because let me also say this, the mistake a lot of people make is they think, I'll fix this when I meet the right one. No, you won't. You'll develop a habit and you will bring that habit into your marriage.
Yeah, and addiction, a lot of addiction is unresolved healing.
Exactly.
You're addicted to something because there's a pain that you haven't resolved yet, you haven't healed, which is go back to healing, which might resolve that addiction or habit that may not be as healthy
Exactly.
as you need it to be.
Or like, let's say you watch porn whenever you get stressed. So porn has become your stress reliever. So it's not that you're not capable of not watching porn. You have to learn how to now use a different method of relieving your stress.
Right.
You have to now understand, you have to break your attachment to this thing. That's the thing. A lot of times we're just attached. Hell, it could be as simple as coffee. At one point, I was attached to coffee. I could not stop drinking it.
Yeah.
And I thought I can't go without coffee. Nah, I don't drink coffee anymore because I recognize the downfalls it had, and I don't want to be attached to anything like that. Anything that can have that much power over you is a problem. So for me, it was a personal decision to resolve. It wasn't a relationship issue or anything like that. But the point is, we sometimes look at these things and try to validate it as, well, it's just coffee. It's just porn. It's no big deal. But it can become a big deal in various ways.
So here's a question that a lot of women might ask you. Stephan, you're not in a relationship. This all sounds great in theory. This all sounds great when there's no stress and you don't feel love and connection and years of in a relationship and children and sharing money together and the messiness of a relationship. It's nice for you to say these things from the sidelines in peace and calm and analyzing this. Why should we trust and respect your opinion when you're not in a long-term committed relationship?
Okay.
For the women leaving comments like that, how would you respond?
So number one, being in a relationship does not determine the wisdom or knowledge of relationships, all right? Because if it did, then more people who are in one could give you wise counsel, and they cannot, all right? So
It's kind of like great basketball, football coaches. A lot of them weren't great players. It's
Exactly.
like they can coach, but they weren't a player.
Exactly, because we have to understand that at the foundation of relationships is understanding men and women and how the two can coexist in a romantic, committed, long-term environment, all right? So you have to understand people first. A lot of people don't know how to make a relationship work because they don't understand people. They don't understand men, women, or they don't understand their woman and their man, all right? So we'll start there. Number two, I don't require or expect anyone to listen to me. I always tell people, pray about it, trust your intuition. If this resonates with you, take it, or take what resonates and leave what doesn't. I have to speak the truth that needs to be spoken. I have to walk in what I know is my purpose, all right? Whether you connect with that or see that, that's on you. I'm not here to convince anyone, all right? I will say that I don't think I could have gotten this far unless what I was saying had truth to it. I don't think I could be this successful without being able to have helped, or the fact that I have helped so many people is why I've gotten to this point. But I think for the individual, also understanding that I'm practicing what I preach, whether you realize it or not. Because
You're not in an unhealthy relationship.
exactly.
You're waiting.
I'm waiting, and I'm waiting for the connection. I'm waiting to make sure that it's going to be in alignment with my purpose. I'm making sure that I'm preparing along the way. I'm still learning, growing, getting better. I'm doing the things I tell everybody else to do. So I'm not going against my message. It's just that we have to understand relationship isn't, you have a certain amount of knowledge, relationship tomorrow. I can have it tomorrow. I can have it tonight if I want it. But the point is not to just get in a relationship, it's to be in the right one. And for me, more importantly, the one that God wants me to be in. And that requires patience, process. You know what I'm saying? And just a willingness to sacrifice in the meantime. It ain't easy, but you got to do it if you want what's best. And the reality is that's how it goes in most aspects of life when you want to be successful. There's a patience, there's a process, and there's a sacrifice. If it's you getting in shape, your body doesn't become what you want it to be tomorrow. Trust me, I know, I've been at it for a while. Okay? I'm still working. If you want to be successful, most successful people have a period of struggle. All right? People just don't see the struggle. All right, but those individuals who think you just jump because you're this person, you're supposed to have a relationship, but you're supposed to have success. No, there's work that is required.
Absolutely.
So to me, I believe that I'm practicing what I preach. I'm consistent with my message. It's just that, it hasn't materialized into a relationship yet. And the last point I'll make is this: I do feel that I'm held to a higher standard.
Right.
Reason being is because if I'm going to be a speaker in this area, I cannot come with some half relationship. I cannot come with something that does not represent the message, that does not glorify God, that does not inspire people. All right? I do not want to be another relationship that makes you feel like there are no good relationships or all this is phony. I want this to be not just real and genuine in me saying it. I want you to feel the energy and spirit of my relationship when I'm in it. So that kind of standard is going to require a lot more work to get.
Right.
Because I always say most relationships start because people overlook the red flags. I can't overlook a red flag.
So it's going to take a lot more
longer.
picky and choosy.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. I've got a couple final questions for you. This has been powerful, but I want people to get one of your most popular books, Love After Heartbreak. They can get it at where can they go to get that book?
StephanSpeaksShop.com, or they can go on Amazon, iTunes, and it will soon be available on Audible as well.
Ooh, you're going to read it?
Yeah.
Ooh, all right. StephanSpeaksShop.com. Love After Heartbreak. You've got a bunch of books.
Yeah, I got
a lot of
bunch
books about relationships on different stages of relationships that you're in.
Yes.
So whatever you're going through, go to StephanSpeaksShop.com. Check out that book. If you have gone through a heartbreak, you're single trying to find the next person.
Or even if you don't think you have anything to heal from, go read it because you probably still do have something to heal from.
Yeah, it's true. And this one's all about how to heal. You talk more
Yes.
about the process of healing, the steps.
Exactly.
You go into that.
And healing from anything, not just relationship hurt, parents, anything from our childhood, family members, friends, any kind of hurt.
Yes. Make sure you guys go check that out. Also, you're on YouTube. Stephan Speaks on YouTube.
Yeah.
Awesome YouTube channel. Facebook's got a massive, Instagram, massive channel in all these places. Check you out over there. 3 final questions. One is, what are a few ways to know that your partner truly loves you?
All right. So way number 1 is to evaluate if you truly love them. Because I find that people are so busy trying to analyze the other person and not looking at themselves in the mirror. And so if you are not truly in love with your partner, they're not truly in love with you. True love is a 2-way experience, not one way. So if you know, for example, you're only with him because he treats you better than the rest, but it's not really there, all right? Then trust and believe he's not in love with you, all right? Same way if you're a man and you're only with her because the family likes her, she's beautiful, she's all these great things, but it's not really there, then she's not in love with you. It doesn't work that way. So if you want to figure out there's real love, figure out that real love exists within you first.
If you love that person
Exactly.
first.
And then and when you can say your love is real, then yes, I do believe that you will then be able to discover that their love is real as well. But understand this, love can be real, but again, a lack of healing and fear can get in the way.
Absolutely.
And so there are people who truly loved you and ran from you.
Love is not enough.
Love is not enough.
That is something where a lot of people say love is all you need. Love is not all you need. You need someone who's not going to scream at you. You need someone who is going to work on themselves and heal. You need someone who's willing to both meet each other's needs. Like, a lot of things need to happen for it to be enough.
Yeah.
Because love is not enough. Is that right?
Yes.
So you got to ask yourself if your love is real for that person first to know if they truly love you.
Yes.
What else would you say there?
Second thing is, are they willing to embrace all your needs and desires? And I think needs, of course, come first, and then desires are second, But I do think that when we really love each other, we're willing to embrace those things. And again, that's why it's important to understand it's a 2-way thing. Because why are you worrying about them being willing to embrace your needs and desires if you're not doing that for them? You have to start with you. So you have to start with, okay, am I willing to meet all of their needs and desires? I can check that box. Okay, now what are they doing for me? And if they cannot check their box, now we say this isn't going to work.
Okay.
All right? But you've got to look at yourself first, because too many people are saying, well, they won't do this, they won't do that. But there's things you aren't doing for them.
Right.
And that's not right.
Right, and you might not be the right match. It doesn't mean you're bad or wrong.
Exactly.
Just not the good fit for each other.
Exactly.
Okay, third thing?
A third thing to tell if they really love, if this person really loves you, is they can be open and vulnerable with you. I think at the end of the day, anyone who's truly in love with someone is at least willing to try to be more open and vulnerable, all right? Or at least has moments. And that's the thing. I think that's the difference between the healed lover and the unhealed lover. The healed lover can be consistent in their vulnerability and their openness. The unhealed lover has these moments of vulnerability, but then they keep pulling back,
Yeah.
all right? Because it's like the moment scared them. It's like, how the hell did I get here? How did they get me to be so, no, I'm not comfortable here. Let me retreat. You see? So it's this back and forth push and pull that happens a lot of times with the unhealed person who can love you, but they're so scared, and that throws everything off.
Absolutely. A lot to unpack here. So many good notes that I've got taken. Feel free to put your biggest takeaway in the comments below over on YouTube. Make sure to follow Stephan. I got 2 final questions for you. Before I ask the final 2 questions, I want to acknowledge you, my man, for always showing up. I think I've had you on, 3 or 4 times now.
Yeah.
Every time there's always something new, and there's always something that is reminded, because I feel like we constantly need reminders. Even when we learn something one time, we need accountability and repetition of this thing for many, many years for the rest of our life. Fitness, nutrition, spirituality, love, connection, business. We need accountability and reminders.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you for showing up constantly as a reminder for all of us listening and watching.
My
and I
pleasure.
appreciate you for constantly diving in and doing the healing work. I know you got to write the letter and being what you talk about, showing
absolutely.
up as what you're coaching other people. So I acknowledge you for all that, my man. I appreciate you. This is called the 3 truths. You've answered this before. If people want to hear this question, they can go back and listen to the other version that you shared. So I won't share what you said before. But if you had to share 3 final things on the last day of your life, and this is all people would have to remember your lessons by, the 3 lessons you would leave the world, and all of your content would have to go with you besides these 3 things. I call it the 3 truths.
Okay.
What would be your 3 truths that you would leave behind?
All right. Truth number 1 would be heal. And under that healing umbrella would be don't take things personally. Don't internalize people's actions. Always embrace forgiveness. Because again, that healing has thrown people's lives off in so many ways. There are so many people who did not live the life they deserved, who were not able to be in the relationship that they deserved, who did not even walk in the purpose or career that was for them, all because of a lack of healing. And so, and some people unfortunately go to the grave with that lack of healing. And so it's such a huge part of life. And so healing has to always be, the first truth I would share.
Heal.
The second thing would be find yourself in your purpose as early as possible. And I say as early as possible because I think that society has created this mindset of you're young, you have time. You'll figure it out later, and later becomes later, and even later, and then later. And then what happens is you dig yourself this deep hole of where you don't belong, that it becomes hard to pull yourself out. All right. So if it's career, you may have spent the last 10 years trying to be a doctor, but your life's calling was to be a teacher. And now it's so hard to walk away from the degree, from all that you poured into being a doctor to now become a teacher. And that alone has derailed your life and taken you off of your true path. So the quicker that we can find ourselves and our purpose and embrace that, the better life we can live, the more we can walk on the path that is for us. And to me, everything else falls into place from there. You see what I'm saying? Peace, happiness, love comes when we find ourselves and when we find our purpose. All right?
Number 3?
Number 3. I'm drawing a blank, but I'm going to give you a number 3. Number 3. So we said healing. We said find yourself, find your purpose. I guess I would just say love without holding back. I think that holding back in life is no way to live, and fighting vulnerability. Like, we got to learn how to dive into vulnerability. And it doesn't mean no one's ever going to hurt us, but we take it for what it is. Because hurt is an inevitable part of life. We cannot escape that. And the crazy part is you fight so hard to escape it, you dive deeper into it from a different angle. It's
true.
All right? So you're going against a force you can't escape. So instead of being able to enjoy your life in the process, you have to still deal with being hurt and you don't get to enjoy your life.
Right.
You know, it's almost like, would you rather have $1 million, but you're gonna go broke in a year, or to just stay broke for the next 10 years and never have a chance at $1 million? Just give me the $1 million for the year. At least let me experience it. Let me have that full experience in life. So I think with love to your fullest, and love your family to your fullest, love your partner to your fullest. Just give your whole heart. And again, don't try to stop it from being hurt. Learn how to handle the hurt that will come our way. Learn how to learn from these experiences. You know what I'm saying? Yes, have your safeguards, because I guess there's some instances that could really like throw everything off. But you can be safe and still be vulnerable and still give with your whole heart.
Absolutely.
So I think that would be the third thing. Because again, so many people are just not experiencing love and relationships and life at its fullest because they keep holding back so much.
Beautiful truths. If you want to see what he shared in the previous episode, make sure to check it out. We'll link on that one below of his previous 3 truths. I think they might surprise you. Final question. What's your definition of greatness?
Living life to your fullest, like really just, and I'm not gonna lie, that's preaching to myself, because even I've had to work on living life to my fullest, really embracing me. Let me share this real quick, and I think it might be important for some men to hear this. So, I especially if you're a believer, I've kind of had struggles where there's this part of me that I've kind of suppressed. The more, I don't want to say just masculine, but it kind of is, the more assertive, maybe even aggressive in some certain cases, the competitive side of me. Like I was having a struggle I was having a struggle this year where I always want more. And I'm like, and I had to question, like, what's wrong with me? Why do I want more? I'm successful, I'm doing well. Why do I have to push for higher? But I had to come to terms with the fact that that's how I'm wired.
Yeah.
And I can't suppress that. I love competition. I love a challenge. I'm the guy that doesn't believe in retiring. I'm gonna always work for the rest of my life. I gotta do something, because to me, that's living life, you know? And so it's not for the men hearing this to think that they have to be like me, but be who you are. Tap into your true self. Let it out. Don't let society tell you that you can't be the man that you are. Because I do think that we're living in a world right now that is trying to undermine a lot of men, that are trying to take masculinity off the table. And it's like, yo, that's who you are, be it. And I do believe that tapping into that, the same way I believe for women tapping into their femininity is going to bring a higher quality of life. It's going to bring happiness. So to go back to the question of what is greatness, is living life to the fullest and living in your true self. There's nothing better than finding yourself, being it, and not giving a damn what anyone thinks.
My man.
You know what I'm saying?
Stephan speaks.
We start to say, oh man, you know what? I'm gonna be all right. I'm gonna be okay. And so often we don't do that. We're looking for other people to do the work for us that we're not doing ourselves. That's why there's always this imbalance. That's why we can never really find contentment. Why? Because it starts here.